South Africa has some of the world's heaviest drinkers, and as the country kicks off New Year's celebrations this weekend, there are calls for responsible alcohol consumption. At the same time, the National Liquor Traders is pledging to trade responsibly and support government efforts to reduce alcohol-related incidents. I'm joined now by Ntimane, convener of the National Liquor Traders Council. Lucky, thank you so much for joining us at this time of the year. Is it all systems go, all hands on deck? Are you making sure that it's not profits first?
Thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Our traders are committed to ensuring that we work hand in hand with government, civil society, and all other relevant stakeholders to ensure that, we create a safe environment where our patrons, where our communities can have a festive season to remember, but also importantly, they can have a festive season in which alcohol is not linked to any of the incidents that we have seen in the past, where if people are consuming alcohol in an irresponsible way, and then those are the final outcomes. But we are confident that our traders are heeding the plea to trade responsibly. But our main focus is on drink and driving, also underage drinking and binge drinking, as we have identified these three issues as the ones that actually lead to high level of alcohol abuse in our country. So we are confident that with the commitment and the pledge that our traders have made, we should be able to hit the home run with the commitment that we are going to implement.
And speaking of drunk drivers as well, it was just in recent days when the police minister released some stats showing that over 4,000 drunk drivers were arrested. Would you say that your efforts are still being felt on the ground, even though people will continue, and it seems that the number is increasing, to drink and drive?
I think firstly we'd like to commend the law enforcement for actually having made those arrests. It means the enforcement that we have been calling for is being implemented from the SAP side. But also importantly is to understand that the issue of drink and drive is not something that can be laid at the door of liquor traders, because if someone goes into a shopping mall and buy alcohol and get behind the wheel whilst drinking, we cannot stop that person. But ours, with the pledge that we've made, is to actually encourage our traders that when they sell alcohol to anyone who they have a reasonable apprehension that they're going to drink and drive, discourage such a person from buying alcohol, and if needs be, refuse to sell alcohol to such a person. So that is a role that we're playing, but we feel that civil society and communities also need to play a role. If I'm in a vehicle and a driver wants to consume alcohol, I need to be able to say to that driver that I'm not going to be in your vehicle, but also discourage such a person from drinking and driving. So we all have a responsibility to play to ensure that we tackle the issue of drink and drive.
Agreed, we all have a responsibility, but just going back to the industry and you saying that, traders are encouraging their patrons to not drink and drive. How do they do that? Can they manage that? Practically speaking, can an owner or the staff at an establishment make sure that they kind of mommy each and every patron to make sure that they're not getting behind the wheel?
I think what we can do is to encourage responsible trading from our members. But also, if you look at the tavern setup, and I think the issue here is that drink and drive does not emanate from taverns. People can go into a shopping mall, which is not our constituency, and buy alcohol and drink and drive from that environment. But from our space, because 90% of consumers that buy at a tavern are known to the outlet owner. So the outlet owner is at any given time able to ascertain that a particular customer coming to the establishment will actually drink and drive. But we are then saying to even the retailers, to maybe have that messaging to discourage people from drinking and drive. Maybe we need to consider other alternatives, maybe sell warm beer so that people are discouraged from getting to the vehicle. Maybe, this is far-fetched, but I think this points to a frustration that we have to say we need maybe to look at, bigger initiatives so that we can discourage people from drinking and drive, because we seem to have a bad relationship with alcohol, especially when it comes to festive season. I know that we'll have the same conversation come Easter, but this needs to stop. We cannot have the same conversations without any solutions in sight.
What are these solutions instead of talking about it? What more can be done to ensure that we do not have this conversation next year this time or again in Easter?
So the alcohol industry certainly does not have a silver bullet to tackling this issue, but what we are doing from our side, we run campaigns that encourage our traders to trade responsibly, to follow what we call 8 principles of responsible trading, to ensure that we don't sell alcohol to underage, we don't sell alcohol to anyone who's visibly intoxicated, and all other things that fall within the ambit of responsible trading in alcohol. But we feel that enough is being done from the liquor trader side, but then civil society and communities also need to play their part. If you've got an uncle who's consuming alcohol in a way that resembles beach drinking, what are we doing about it? So it requires almost a whole societal approach in order for us to tackle this. But also we have said as liquor traders that we see ourselves as a part of society and community before we are liquor traders. So we ought to take that responsibility from our side, and we're doing that. So we require civil society also to come on board and be able to tackle the issue of alcohol abuse that we see in the country.
Do you think the industry is taking enough responsibility for the misuse of alcohol that we see in the country?
I think we are, hence we are here, we are having this conversation. And we are on record as saying that, we feel that the issue of alcohol abuse is something that we've managed to hide or sweep under the carpet for so long in the country. And what COVID-19 did was to rear its ugly head and show us that, this is the issue that we need to start engaging in. So hence we're now looking at efforts, and we have run programs leading into this festive season in KZN, in the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and Gauteng, because these were identified as hotspots where we encourage our traders to trade responsibly. But also we have partnered with the South African Police Services and the Ministry of Police through the Safer Festive Season campaign to ensure that we report those that, seem to want to fall by the wayside and not want to follow the law. And we report those so that those liquor outlets must actually be closed. We are on record as saying that anyone who does not comply with the liquor laws actually ought to lose their license. It should be that simple.
And from your experience, do you find that when you do report those outlets and you do work in conjunction with the police, that arrests are made and those establishments are indeed closed down indefinitely?
Yes, we have seen that, but also we acknowledge the work that is being done by SAPS with regards to the shebeens, because a lot of this abuse in alcohol that we see in the country actually comes from unlicensed outlets, but unfortunately then we have to bear the brunt of the misuse of alcohol that takes place because we are the licensed one. So those have been closed. We have seen in Gauteng, General Mawela with his team in their campaign, Operation Chanela, closing a lot of shoppings in the country, which is something that we welcome. If anyone wants to trade in alcohol, they should be patient enough and apply for a liquor license so that they can trade responsibly. There is no room for anyone in the country to sell alcohol if they do not have the right legal requirements or the license to sell alcohol.
Now, we've spoken a great deal about drunk driving, but also let's talk about crime. Does the industry acknowledge its role and the responsibility that it has when it comes to those who consume crime and then take part in criminal activities, including gender-based violence, particularly at this time of the year?
We have seen the statistics. With the latest statistics that were released, 11% of the gender-based violence cases were linked to alcohol. So, of course, we take responsibility, for our part in which alcohol is seen to be a contributing factor in violence in our country. I think it will be unfair of us, or even misleading, to come here and almost create an impression that, we're an angelic industry. Of course, there's a lot of harm that is associated with a product, but that is obviously linked to the irresponsible use of alcohol. I think alcohol, as it were, it's a good product if enjoyed responsibly, but we know that we have to deal with the irresponsible usage of alcohol, and we take full responsibility for what can go wrong in that space.
And when you say you take full responsibility, how so?
We take full responsibility in ensuring that we run campaigns that will address those issues, but also change behavioral patterns that seek to lend themselves in alcohol being abused in our communities. Hence, we run campaigns working closely with SAPS, working closely with NGOs, but also working closely with our taverns, who are the last line of defense in ensuring that we tackle the issue of alcohol abuse in our country.
Now, without necessarily giving me stats and figures, how successful are these campaigns? If you can just share maybe an anecdote or two of how successful they've been, where you've gone in, had a campaign, and then you see the result of it afterwards, which is positive.
Yes. So let me use an example of Ntimane. So in Ntimane, through the funding of the alcohol industry, we have 40 community patrollers that go into liquor outlets and actually carry out audits. So what we have seen, we've launched this campaign on the 1st of October. So what we have seen is actually a 30% reduction in non-compliance. So what we do is we ask questions of the outlet, but also through observation, we complete a questionnaire that seeks to identify whether the outlet, for example, has displayed the liquor license, whether it is serving alcohol to underage. What we have seen is a total reduction over the period of about 3 to 4 months of 30%. We feel that this is the right approach, but also we're encouraging the alcohol industry to invest more so that these audits are not done just in one part of the country, but they are done where the hotspots are being identified, not just in illicit or illegal trading of alcohol, but also in GBV matters, because as we take responsibility that we need to do our part to contributing positively to our society, we also need to acknowledge where we are wrong. But we have seen that, through interventions that we have implemented, for example, in Ntimane, there are results to be had.
What would your message be to people out there who may not think, because you said, you know, we should also work with our communities. If we're seeing that you have that uncle that is maybe overindulging, as a family, as a community, maybe sit them down and talk to them. What would your message be to those people who may think they may not have a problem but actually do have a problem? What would those telltale signs be?
I think once one consumes alcohol as a means of escaping from their reality, that's when I think the problem starts to show. Alcohol should be a product, it should be a social lubricant for enjoyment, for people to have fun, to sit around family, have those conversations, especially now during festive season where people that haven't seen each other will be able to engage with one another. Hence our message to our patrons is to say, let this be the season to be merry and not to bury anyone. No one should lose their lives because of alcohol, but also to look at traders. Let's not put the profits ahead of the lives of our people.
Yeah, let's echo that. Let this be the season to be merry and not the season to bury our loved ones. Thank you so much. That is Ntimane from the National Liquor Traders Council.